Hello and welcome. My name is Lucy Hutchings. I'm a registered dietitian and I'm here sponsored by Acton Nursing Services and Community Services. Thank you so much for being here today. I am here to talk to you about eating healthy through the holidays. So surviving that holiday sugar rush. So as I'm recording this, it's actually right before not Thanksgiving, but Halloween. And so this is the start of the sugary holiday season. And I'm going to give you tips today to help you navigate this season and help you to stay healthy for your whole family. Not just you, not just your kids, but the whole family. I really believe that there is a way to make the holidays actually a healthy time, not just a lot of sweets and sugar. We can also find other ways to celebrate the holidays and have a really nutritious, wonderful time. So a little bit about me. I have been a dietitian for 14 years and I help women to reduce inflammation. I help them to improve their skin conditions, and I also help to manage weight, all with the anti-inflammatory diet. So thank you so much for being here. Let's get started right away. So we are going to be cooking today a recipe that I think is incredibly simple, incredibly easy, and super delicious. It's something that really hits home during the holiday season because it brings out a lot of the holiday flavors, yet it still gives a lot of nutrition, a lot of nutritious nutrients, and it doesn't spike blood sugar. So I'm going to start with that, and then we're going to get into a little bit of conversation about getting through the holidays. And I have so many tips for you, so you're going to want to stay till the end. And I also have the recipe to share with you that will be posted in the link that will be below this video. Okay, so this is my favorite pumpkin soup. Super easy, super healthy. And all we're using today are very simple ingredients that you might even already have on hand, or you can keep on hand for the future. So we're going to use some organic pumpkin puree. Make sure when you are buying this pumpkin that you check the ingredient list and make sure there's nothing else included in it. It should just be pumpkin. Then we're going to be using some organic coconut milk. This is canned coconut milk, so this is the full fat variety. Now, a lot of people get the boxed container of coconut milk, and so that usually has most of the fat removed, and the fat is the healthy stuff that you really want. So coconut fat is really healthy. You don't want to get rid of it. You want it in your cooking. And also when you buy it in the container, it usually has a lot of other added ingredients. So we want to get the full fat coconut milk in the can. I'm going to be cooking the onions in some ghee. You can use whatever fat you want. You could use olive oil. You could use, let's see, what else is there to use? Maybe even olive oil. That's fine. Whatever fat you want. I just avoid inflammatory fats such as canola oil, soybean oil, vegetable oil. Any kind of vegetable or seed oil tends to promote inflammation in the body. So we're going to skip that for today. And then I'm going to be adding a little bit of sweetness to this, which is optional, but I do have some pure maple syrup. I also have some spices. So that's what's really going to make this a great holiday-ish, fall-ish type of dish. So there's cinnamon, nutmeg, salt, and some pepper in there. And I'm going to use some pink Himalayan salt, and then I'm also going to use some broth. This broth is homemade broth, but you can use store-bought broth, that's fine too. Just check the ingredient list and make sure it doesn't have any added ingredients that you don't recognize, or added flavors, or MSG, or anything like that, because you don't need that in broth. Broth really is just, all I did with this is added some bones and some veggies and some peppercorns and some water, and that's it. You can even leave out the bones and just make vegetable broth as well. So we're going to get started with some garlic and onions. So I'm going to get my pot hot, and while I do that, I am going to talk to you about some other ways to keep the holidays healthy. So my first question for you is, what happens during the holidays? Well, some of the things are negative and some of them are more positive. So some of the things that we are dealing with during the holiday season is things like stress. Stress is something that seems to really accompany the holidays for most people. It might be stress at work, it could be family life, it could be family gatherings, it could be just the running around and all the things that we have to do during the holidays. It really comes to a head at the holidays. So we are going to be addressing that a little bit today. Another thing that happens during the holidays is that we put a lot of expectations on ourselves. We want the holidays to be perfect. We have a lot of traditions maybe that we're trying to keep up. And there's just so many things. And of course, there's the holiday shopping that is on top of all that. So it adds a lot to our plate. And then another thing that we think about when we think about the holidays is the food. So what do you think about when you are thinking of holiday food? A lot of people are going to think about a lot of carbs and a lot of sugar, right? We think of holiday pies and cakes and cookies and a lot of carbs, a lot of gatherings. And so we're going to talk about how to navigate all of that. But while I'm talking, I'm going to get these onions started. So I've got my ghee warmed up in the pot, and I'm just going to add the onions and let them cook for a little bit. This soup is so fast, it only takes about 15 minutes to make. So I'm going to let that cook. I'm also going to sprinkle it with some Himalayan salt, some pink salt, and that way it just gets these onions caramelized a little bit. All right. So another thing that happens during the holidays is that we're not always taking care of ourselves, and sometimes we're taking care of others. We're doing a lot of work taking care of others, whether it's our kids or our families. It could be also if we're taking care of parents or other elders. There's a lot of other things other needs that we have to meet. And so we're not always meeting our own needs during this time. Now, there's other positive things that we want to think about during the holidays, right? We want to think about the traditions. The holiday season can bring a lot of joy. There's a lot of really wonderful things, and sometimes we're missing them because we're not really focused on that. And so that's something we're going to talk about today, is really focusing on the joy and the traditions that bring us happiness during this season. It's also about connection. It's about connecting with family. It's about connecting with our loved ones, family and friends. So there's a lot of really great things during the holidays, and we want to keep our focus on that rather than all the sugar and the unhealthy foods that we're going to talk about as well. So let's see. We talked about the different types of foods, right? We talked about the fact that we find a lot of pies and cookies and carbs during the holidays. So, what is the problem with having a lot of the sugar and a lot of the processed carbs, a lot of the pies and the sweet treats and things like that? Is that even a problem? Do we need to deal with that? Well, unfortunately, some of the things that happens when we have a lot of sugar is that we have a lot of sugar highs and lows. So if our blood sugar is being spiked, then our body's going to react to that. And what ends up happening is we then have a big sugar dip, right? And so that's going to affect our energy. It's going to affect our mood, and it's going to affect our mood, our energy, and just how we feel, right? It can also affect our digestive system. It can affect our risk for heart disease and our risk for diabetes. It can also affect our weight, right? So the more our sugar goes up, then our blood sugar goes up, then we can hold on to a lot of the weight. And that's one of the things that, right, a lot of people are concerned about during the holidays is weight gain. Now, there's a couple things that I really want to bring to your attention. Number one, during the holidays, let's think about the fact that the holidays are only one season. It's one time of year, right? And hopefully the onions are not too loud during this talk. I'll give them a little stir. These are actually going to cook down in just a minute. So I apologize if it's making it kind of hard to hear. Okay, so the holidays are here once a year, right? And it's not something that we really want to perseverate over because it's when we're trying to worry, when we're worrying about our weight, right? This is just once a year. Now, that's one way to think of it, but I know that a lot of people are saying, yeah, it is once a year. It's just, maybe Christmas, maybe Thanksgiving, whatever holiday you celebrate. But that tends to seep into an entire quarter of the year. Right? It seems to start at Halloween and go all the way till after January 1st. And then I don't know about you, but my kids end up having a whole bunch of candy at Valentine's Day, and then there's Easter on top of that. So it seems like maybe a half a year is a lot of candy and sugar. Right? So we have to keep it in perspective, though. The actual holiday are only a few days of the year. But if we allow it to extend for the entire season, that's when we're going to run into trouble. If you're paying attention to your health and your nutrition for the entire year, then a few days out of the year are not going to be a big deal. So maybe it's no big deal to celebrate and eat whatever you want on these particular holidays if you're spending time the rest of the year really paying attention to your health. So that's just something to think about. And then the next thing to think about when you're thinking of getting through the holidays and making it healthy, also think about what are your goals. All right, and while you're thinking about what your health goals are, I'm going to get this garlic crushed. You don't have to crush it through a garlic press. You can do it, just chop it. You can do it however you like. And by the way, this recipe is so easy. You don't even have to chop these onions. You can let the grocery store do it for you. You can buy onions already chopped in the produce section. You can get a lot of veggies already chopped. You don't even have to do it yourself. You can even buy frozen onions chopped and keep them on hand. And that's basically everything that you need to make this recipe. You can keep on hand so that you don't even have to worry about getting to the store and buying it. Now this is going to be really quick because I don't want the garlic to burn. I might even add a little bit more fat. I'm going to turn down the heat just a tad. Give this a stir. I don't want that garlic to cook too much. I just want it to get the flavor out just a tiny bit. And then we're going to add all the rest of the ingredients, and that's it. It's that easy. You don't have to do anything else. So we're going to add the pumpkin. And that was a big puff of noise. Now I'm going to post the recipe for this, but I don't always follow it exactly. Really, you just combine these ingredients and it doesn't really matter. That doesn't really matter too much, the quantities. I'm using just 2 cans of pumpkin to make it easy. You can, of course, roast your own pumpkin, but that takes an extra step that I know a lot of us busy moms do not have time for. All right, we're going to give that a stir. And that made it so much more quiet. Okay. Now we're going to add all the rest of the ingredients. So it calls for a cup of coconut milk, but I'm just going to kind of eye it. There's a cup. I'm going to see if that looks good. Yeah, that looks good, because then I'm going to add some broth. Again, it calls for a cup of broth, but again, I'm just going to eye it. Now this is my homemade broth. And really what I want to do here is just thin it out to be the right consistency. And I think right there is good. See, it's basically soup. Now I'm going to add the seasonings. Like I said before, this is cinnamon, nutmeg, salt, and pepper. And it smells really good. It reminds me of the holidays. Stir that up. And then the last ingredient is optional. But I do really like to add a little bit of maple syrup. I like the flavor, I like the sweetness. It makes this soup really fun. So that's about a 1/4 cup of maple syrup. And of course you can adjust it, you can use less, you can use more. If you use more though, you are increasing the carbs for the soup. Okay, I think that's everything that we need. Now all you have to do is let that come to a simmer, and then I am going to puree it with my stick blender. You don't have to do that. You could just serve it like that, but I like it to be nice and smooth. So we'll do that after it comes to a simmer, and then I will give it a taste to make sure it's just right and I can adjust the seasonings. Now while we're waiting for that to simmer, we can continue talking about the holidays. So we were talking about setting your goals, right? So what are your health goals? You have to know what your goals are in order to know how you want to see yourself getting through the holidays. So if your goal is to manage your weight, or maybe it's to balance your blood sugar, or maybe it's to just be a really great role model for your kids, whatever it is, you have to have that in mind. You have to know what it is that you want to do in order to get through the holidays in the best way possible, in the way that you want to get through the holidays. So if you are trying to manage your weight or balance your blood sugar, then concentrating on the not getting too much of the sugar and not getting too much of the processed carbs is where you want to concentrate. But it might be different for somebody else. Maybe they want to just concentrate on just getting more physical activity. So you have to know what you want to concentrate on in order to make that plan. So those are the two things that I want to bring to your attention before we even continue. And that was acknowledging that the holidays are once a year and that it's up to you whether you spread that throughout an entire season or not. And then what are your goals? Now, I have 4 tips for you, 4 steps to keeping the holidays healthy and manageable. And I have it all in a handout that you can download. When you click that link, it's going to have all the things that you need, the recipes, the handout, and everything that you need right there. All right, so the 4 steps. We're going to start with number 1, set yourself up for success. Okay, so this is not the time of year to start cutting calories or making really big changes, because that's really setting yourself up for failure. When you start restricting yourself, cutting calories or telling yourself that you can't have certain foods, when you do this, you are going to end up feeling deprived. When we feel deprived or when we feel hungry, so those are 2 things that are going to happen. Feeling deprived and feeling hungry. When you're feeling deprived, it makes it very difficult to then manage making good decisions, because as soon as you take something away, you're going to want that particular thing. If you say, I'm not going to have chocolate, then that's exactly what you're going to be craving. And if you're cutting back on calories or food in general, that creates hunger and it slows down your metabolism. When we're hungry, that is when we make the poorest decisions. We don't want to make decisions out of feeling hungry or deprived. We want to make decisions out of control, right? And in order to feel in control, we have to feel satiated and fulfilled, not deprived. Okay, so that's number 1. And with that, I will say, when you're going to a family gathering or a friend gathering or some kind of a holiday function, right? It's tempting to say, well, I'm going to skip breakfast or I'm going to skip lunch because I'm going to save my calories for that event. What this actually doesn't set you up for success. It actually ends up backfiring in the end, because when we are so hungry and when our blood sugar has crashed, we end up making poorer decisions. So I highly recommend really setting yourself up for success by eating a really great healthy meal for throughout the day. Make sure you're eating really healthy and you're not depriving yourself or cutting back on calories before you go to an event. Number 2 is taking care of you. This is a time of year when we easily forget to take care of ourselves. We are taking care of the kids, we're taking care of everyone else. But if we don't take care of ourselves, then that's when our health slips. And when our health slips, we're not able to take care of everyone else. If we're not healthy, we can't be there for everyone else. So it's really important to think about what are those things that you need, whether it's physical activity, whether it's time alone, whether it's some me time, whatever it is, you have to make sure that you're getting it and you're taking care of yourself. And so maybe look at that schedule and see, is there anything that you can cut back? We tend to really pile on the events during the holidays because there's just so many things to do, right? There's all the holiday performances and holiday events and gatherings, and that's great. But if it's interfering with you being able to take care of yourself, then you need to take a step back and really hone in on what's important so that you get the best care that you can have. Because if you're not well, then you can't take care of everyone else. Number 3 is practice mindfulness. And what I mean by that is it's totally okay to go to a family event or some kind of a gathering, and there's going to be probably all kinds of delicious foods that we only see during the holidays. I wouldn't recommend telling yourself that you can't have any of those things. We want to make really good decisions, but we want to do it with mindfulness. We want bringing awareness to what you're eating is really going to help you here. So if there's something at one of these gatherings that is really delicious and homemade and something that you only get once a year, then go ahead and indulge in that, but just do it with mindfulness. Make sure you're tasting every bite and appreciating it and not making yourself feel guilty afterwards. So mindfulness throughout the season, it's really important, not just at the holiday events. So really pay attention to what you're eating and what you're doing and where you are, and just be present in the moment. And the 4th thing is keep an open mind and get creative. So what I mean by this is maybe there's some family recipes that you absolutely love. Maybe you grew up with them. You want to share them with your kids. But maybe if you get creative and keep that open mind, maybe there's a way to still make those recipes, but do it in a little bit more healthful way. There's a lot of different ways that we can tweak recipes to make them still taste delicious, but just add in a little bit of that health. Now, those were my 4 things. So the question now is, what is healthy? What does that mean? Changing a recipe and making sure that we're making good choices. So what I see as good health and a good, healthy, nutritious diet is going to be just a whole foods real diet. So basically eating as many whole foods as possible. And this goes for all year round, not just for the holidays. But as much as we can, we want to get those fruits and vegetables in. We want to get the good quality proteins in. And we want to limit the sugar and the processed foods as much as possible. Easier said than done, I know, but step by step. Baby steps count. We don't need to do it all at once. And then the last thing as far as the diet goes is getting those healthy fats in. The holidays tend to be a time when we say, oh, I'm going to just cut out all the fats. I'm going to just eat a low-fat diet, and I'm going to buy everything low-fat. And that actually doesn't help you. It doesn't set yourself up. It doesn't set yourself up for success. When we take the fat out of products, usually things are added back in, such as more sugar or more processed ingredients. We don't want that. We actually really need fats in our diet. We don't want to have a low-fat diet. We need fats for good brain health. We need fats for good hormone health. And all the hormones that are in our body need fat, all the cells in our body, right? So we can't really function well. We can't get the fat-soluble vitamins really well if we don't have fats in our diet. We just want to pick really good ones. So healthy fats are going to be things like the fat from quality proteins, the fats in salmon, the fats in eggs. Those are really good. If you get really good quality chicken and beef and lamb, things like that are going to have really good fats in them as well. So what we don't want are vegetable oils. We don't want canola oil. We don't want corn oil or soybean oil, and we don't want margarine or anything that's processed. So that's a really great healthy diet if you are able to take just little steps towards that, maybe increasing the vegetables a little bit more. And with that said, there are so many ways you can do that with your Thanksgiving and holiday meals, because those meals are usually based on vegetables and good proteins. It's just what we do with them that ends up making them a little bit less healthy. In the handout that you can download, it has all kinds of suggestions for meals, for appetizers, for side dishes, for main dishes that are a much healthier version, still incredibly delicious and filled with all kinds of good vitamins and minerals and all kinds of good nutrients, but they are decreased in that sugar and the processed carbs. So check that out. It has all kinds of good suggestions. All right, so this soup, I can turn it up a little to make it simmer. It's pretty much simmering right now. And while we finish this up, I'll just give you my last tips for eating through the holidays and surviving that sugar, the holiday sugar rush. And before I give you the tips, I am going to just blend this because I want to taste this soup before we go. So I have a stick immersion blender. You, again, you don't have to blend it. You could use a blender or just skip it all together. So this is going to get loud for just a moment. All right, that's good enough. You can always blend it more if you want to, but I don't mind if there's still a few little pieces of onion in there, it's fine. But it definitely gets all the flavors really mixed up. Now, I can really smell the flavors coming out now that I've blended it. I can smell the pumpkin, I can smell the cinnamon and the nutmeg, and it smells really good. Yep, I got one big piece of onion that didn't get blended. That's okay. Okay, I'm gonna let that cool for just a moment while I just give you my tips. All right, so some of my tips are keep snacks with you on hand, ready to go when you are going somewhere, when you are doing your holiday shopping. It is the worst feeling to be shopping all day and then go through the checkout, be starving, and then grab that candy that's in the checkout line or the quick snack or drive through fast food, and then your energy just crashes. It doesn't make you feel good, and it doesn't really give you the energy that you need to get through the rest of the day. Having something on hand will really help, whether it's thinking about bringing some kind of a quick lunch with you, or whether it's just having some nuts and seeds like a trail mix in your purse, or having some really good high quality jerky like 100% grass-fed beef jerky is a great one. So having those things on hand, I can turn that off now, that's going to be really, really helpful when you're dealing with an all-day shopping experience, or when you're going traveling to families, right? I think that's off now. And same with your kids. So you're definitely going to want to have things on hand for them to grab that are not loaded with sugar, because giving them sugar when you're out shopping or when you're at a family event or something where you need your kids to be on their best behavior, be able to pay attention and focus and have good energy, that sugar, if you give them the sugar, it's going to just make everything go downhill at that point. So you want to give them really good proteins and fats. Something like nuts or trail mix is going to help with that. Okay, so that's being prepared, right? Another tip is don't load the house up with the candy and the sweets and the treats and the baked goods. So like I said before, the holidays are just a few days a year, right? It's us that extend it. So just like with Halloween coming up, as we're recording this next week, you don't have to keep the candy in the house until the last minute. Don't buy it ahead of time, having it on the counter where it's easily accessible. If there's a bowl of candy on the counter, then most likely you're gonna eat it. I know that I would be very tempted if there's treats and sweets and all kinds of sugary things right there in the open, easily accessible. Same thing for your kids, right? So you don't need to have it out in the open all the time. So be mindful of what you bring in the house, what you bring home, and what you have available on display. Try and make it as healthy as possible and really set yourself up for success. The next thing is to be firm with your friends and family when you go to these gatherings. There's probably going to be some pushback when you're trying to make healthy choices. I know that a lot of the people that I've worked with and a lot of the people that I talk to have this problem when they go places and they are around family and friends. Their family and friends want them to be happy. They want them to indulge, but that doesn't actually end up working well for you, right? If you're pressured into eating things that you're trying not to eat, then it doesn't make you feel good. So one of the things you have to do is ahead of time think about what it is that you're going to say. What are the boundaries that you're going to put up? What are you going to do about, which of the sweets are you going to indulge in? So make those decisions ahead of time and then stick to it when you're out and about. Same thing with your kids. So it's really important for us to give them some guidelines when it comes to sweets and treats. Now, of course, they need autonomy. They need to be able to make decisions for themselves, but it's us that provides the food. So if we're bringing things into the house, if we're bringing the candy home or the sweets and the treats home, or we're allowing them to have as many as they want, then it's hard for them to make those good choices at their age, right? Depending on what their age is, of course. So we need to make sure that we're helping them make good choices and being really good role models ourselves. That's really the best way kids learn, is by us being really good role models. And so think about that when you're going places and when your kids are around sweets and treats and candy and sugar, because it doesn't help their body to grow. And then also, remember to appreciate those treats that you do choose. Appreciate every bite and don't feel bad afterwards. You know, the holidays are a time of really good food. This is the time when everybody breaks out their best recipes. And so we want to appreciate that. And, you can enjoy it and appreciate every bite and then decide how much of it you actually want to eat. And that's where that awareness comes in. The more aware you are, the easier it's going to be to make those decisions. And then the next thing is about alcohol. So that's a choice that you need to make for yourself. You can decide for you what makes the most sense. Some people are totally fine with having a glass of alcohol, at a function. But if for you that means it's going to decrease your ability to make really good decisions about your food, then maybe that's not the best time. If in general, I can tell you that in general, alcohol does increase stress, which is not the best thing around this time of year, and it interferes with sleep. And it increases our desire for some of those less healthy options, right? So maybe alcohol is not the best choice, but that's going to be up to you whether you can include it in your life and still make good decisions or not. But that's something you need to make a decision about. Okay, so those were all my tips. And again, your handout is there for you in the link. There is a lot of information in here, so I do encourage you to click the link, download it, get that info, and remember, this is a step-by-step process. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can just pick one little thing and try it out. I'm going to test out this soup. So let's see here. Before we go, I want to try the soup so I know if it's good or not. Super delicious. I can taste all the good flavors. It reminds me of the holidays, yet it's still healthy. So, really good. I highly recommend that you check out this recipe, try it. It's so easy. And to connect with me more, I am the host of the Healthy Mama podcast. So that's a free podcast you can get anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I put out a new episode every week. where I really highlight how to make healthy living really easy and sustainable and realistic for busy moms. So check that out. And you can also connect with me on Facebook, Lucy Hutchings RD. I'm very active there. And I also have a private Facebook group for women working on the anti-inflammatory diet. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful holiday season. Bye-bye.